One long-standing tradition we have in our family is that of bread making. I grew up in a family with 9 children, and I don't ever remember my parents buying store-bought bread. Now, I'm sure they probably did once in a while, but mostly I just remember my mom making 6 or 8 loaves of whole wheat bread at a time and putting them in the freezer. And one thing that she did that she learned from her mother, because the kids would complain about crusts, is she would take the round juice cans. They are made of aluminum, so I don't know if I recommend doing this now. But these round cans, that were about this tall, and she'd put her loaves of bread in them so that when they baked, the only crust that there was on the very top. The bread would rise to the top and just bake up here, but all around it was soft. And we as kids preferred bread that didn't have a hard crust. Well, today I'm going to show you how to make an artisan bread with a hard crust, because that is the goal, is to make these beautiful loaves of bread. Let me show you one that's not cut. And they are just wonderfully light and fluffy and chewy on the inside with this crust on the outside that is absolutely delicious. And even though I don't make a lot of white bread, I love this for special occasions and because it uses a natural yeast, a fermented fruit start, rather than a sourdough start. I don't like to mess with sourdough anymore, and this has been amazing because it's so easy. Now, it does take time, but it is simple. I don't like to do anything in the kitchen that's too terribly hard, and once you've done this once or twice, it will feel simple even though it's a longer process. So with that introduction, I want to introduce you to this natural yeast bread. This is a tutorial for all of you who are wanting to make this amazing artisan bread. It starts out with a natural fruit start or a natural yeast, ferment, whatever you want to call it, and you can use really any fruit, supposedly. I have used dates, I've used raisins, today I'm using plums, I've used them before, I think I've used figs, all with great success. But supposedly you can use apples. I saw somewhere where you could use oranges. Just try out your various fruits because they all ferment. So I had some extra ripe plums, and I have just cut them up into chunks. You just want to get the seed out. You want to put it in a quart-sized jar that has been cleaned, obviously, hopefully disinfected, like through the dishwasher. And I just cut it into chunks off the seed. These are extra ripe, and I think they ferment faster when they're extra ripe. They get bubbly quicker. So you're just gonna fill the jar up 1/3 of the way. So let me see if I have enough here for 1/3. It can be a wide mouth jar or a narrow mouth, and I'll explain the lid situation in a second. So this isn't quite 1/3. So because that was all the plums I had, I'm gonna supplement with some dates. These are just dried. Usually when I just use dates, it takes about 7 to 8 to get 1/3 of the way. So I'm just pulling out the seed, breaking them in half, throwing them in, and I'm just gonna use these last 3 that I have. And that should be sufficient. Maybe don't even need all of them. But again, the recipe recommends 1/3 of your jar full of fruit. So put that in. Then you're gonna fill it up with filtered water. Now I have a reverse osmosis watering system here. It's an AquaTrue. Let me flip this around. Right here. If you don't have this, you can leave tap water out overnight until the chlorine evaporates from it, but don't just use straight tap water. You can also buy distilled water or, you know, other filtered water in the store. So I'm gonna fill this up to the top. Now I fill it about to the neck, I should say. So you have, you know, a little bit of room up at the top. And then all you do is, let me flip this back around, is you add a teaspoon of sugar. So here's my teaspoon and my sugar. And I'm just gonna plop that in the jar. Now the first time you make it, that's all you're going to do. But since I've made it before, I'm gonna inoculate this batch with a teaspoon of the liquid from my last batch. That will make the ferment go faster. Now, if you don't have anything to inoculate it with, this takes, I don't know, about 5 days, maybe 7 days. It kind of all depends, but it goes slower. With this, if I inoculate it, and I'll show you, I'm just gonna pour in just this last little bit of juice that I have here from before. This will be ready now in 24 to 48 hours because of that little bit of extra kick from the last batch. So as you can see, this was a wide mouth jar. I have these special lids that are for fermenting, and they just automatically release the pressure in the jar, but no air can get in, only air can escape. I think I got them on Amazon. But with this is a narrow mouth. I got these little things that look like nipples. And they are from, I think, Walmart. And I'm sure you can get them online as well. But they just go in a regular ring. And they also let the air out. So as this ferments, it's going to build up pressure, and you want to release that pressure. If you don't have either one of these lids, just use a regular canning lid. And that would mean that as you start to see it build pressure, you'll see that the fruit floats and little bubbles start to come up. You need to release the pressure once or twice a day so that your jar doesn't explode, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, this does it for me, so I don't need to, but I just give it a little shake and then I just let it sit. And like I said, this will be ready in 24 to 48 hours. So just so you know, I start my bread at night so that it can rise all overnight. That seems to be the easiest for me because you let it rise for about 8 to 10 hours, and it could even go 12 if you need it to. So I try and time this. You know, the more you do it, the more you'll know how fast your ferment will be ready to go. Because if it gets, what happens is it'll get really bubbly like pop. And when you open the lid to release the pressure, you know, it just fuzzes like a can of soda. So, but if you wait too long past the peak of that fizziness, it's not going to give your bread as good of a rise. So, and I've kind of done it maybe too early, where I maybe should have left it another half day, and then my bread just rose slower. I had to wait longer. So it's not like you can really mess it up, but you can wait too long and then really not have a good strong yeast. So you want to use it at its peak. So anyway, I'm just going to put this in my pantry. I usually set it on something because sometimes liquid does ooze out and it's sticky, but we'll go to the next step once this is ready.